baik tu dia jadi mereka tahu रेडियो फीजी बहुत रेडियो फीजी रोज सुनता हूँ
रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन.
In the news tonight, foreign national cleared of coronavirus. Education Ministry to increase finance officers. And pensioners prefer food voucher over cash.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Amrita Sagar.
The test result for the foreign national isolated in Nandi Hospital under suspicion for the coronavirus has turned out to be negative. The man was put in isolation on Thursday at Nandi Hospital after showing mild signs of a fever. The lab samples for confirmatory testing was sent to the WHO Collaborating Centre Reference Laboratory in Melbourne, Australia. The Health Ministry confirms that all persons investigated so far for the 2019 coronavirus in Fiji have tested negative, and there are no confirmed cases in Fiji. This includes the 2 Fijian nationals who were tested for coronavirus but have been cleared.
I know that the results for the 2 Fiji nationals that have been in isolation in Nandi are negative. Those are the results that we've had come back from Australia.
The Ministry of Education will work towards carrying out more audits as part of its improved financial processes. During a Public Accounts Committee submission this week on the effectiveness of institutional framework for preventing corruption, Ministry representatives highlighted the measures in place. Maggie Boyle with the story.
On fight against corruption.
Ensuring financial integrity is a key component to the Ministry of Education, particularly when managing school grants.
Currently, we have got audit officers at divisional levels as well as at headquarters, but moving forward we will obviously have finance officers at district level focusing on training and development for heads of school and school management as well as conducting audits.
The Ministry also highlighting the codes of conduct that all school committees must uphold.
In terms of the school management committee, the 2020 school management handbook that's recently been implemented, it provides for the code of conduct for the school management committees.
Well, the Fiji Independent Commission Against Corruption also before the committee, PAC members questioned just how effective anti-corruption measures are.
The current system or framework to combat corruption sufficient to combat corruption in Fiji?
The straightforward answer to that question would be no. FICAC's vision of the current vision that we have is ensuring the peoples of Fiji live a life free of corruption. It's a very mammoth vision.
How do you assess or have you assessed the progress in combating corruption in Fiji?
One of them is KPI benchmarking and audit. This is done on a regular basis. We do check our key performance indicators within.
The Education Ministry and FICAC made a joint submission to PAC on how effective anti-corruption measures have been. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
Social Welfare Department clarifying that changes to the social pension scheme were to meet the increase in the number of social welfare recipients and make work more efficient for the department. Apanisa Wangaradovo reports that recently the food voucher assistance was replaced with cash deposits, to which the Fiji Pensioners Association reacted, saying they prefer food vouchers more than cash.
The Pensioners Association says food voucher is good in a way as recipients do not have to use it for any other expenses.
Some of the welfare people who are receiving money, they say now they don't, the food voucher will not be given, but instead the cash will be given. When you think of the cash, how much of that cash can be utilized, that's the other thing. Price of things have gone up. So when you think of that cash coming $100, when you give it $100 is no money for the pensioner.
In response, the Ministry for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, which overlooks the Social Welfare Department, says most pensioners have bank accounts and this also makes work easier.
Change was made from the expanded food voucher program to allow the ministry to react to the larger number of claimants that were coming on board, and also to facilitate an ease of transfer through the electronic banking system, which also allows us more data and ability to track their financial transfers.
Paul also says there are options for some scheme recipients.
For those that are living in remote areas, they can still access these payments through a voucher system. So for those that might be disabled or have mobility issues, there'll be an alternative and we can look at that. So I'll take your inquiry back from the public to our Director of Social Welfare, and we'll discuss how we can better assist those that are possibly struggling due to mobility issues.
The Department of Social Welfare is now carrying out its recertification drive, which requires all recipients of monthly assistance to update information with the department. Apiniso Wagardobu, FBC News.
The Minister for Local Government anticipates that municipal councils will address staffing needs with urgency. Minister Premila Kumar says she is aware of overstaffing in some administrative divisions of the town councils, while other units are in need of manpower that are under-resourced. Kumar says a prime example are the large amounts of city and town rates that municipalities are struggling to collect. Kumar also says that qualification requirements will be key in recruitment. Some special administrators have already started to restructure their municipalities.
The population has increased, there is more demand for the services, but the rates have not increased and the rate payers are not paying the rates, then how can you demand for the service? So everything ties in. And we want to restructure the organization truly based on their functions. What are they doing?
Up ahead, Fijians express water cut disappointments. An Environment Ministry to uphold legislations. Details after the break.
Pula natang ko aproslan ngarse, ko erkraki. Do television na barong na Radio Fiji 1 nandomo ibiti.
Radio Fiji 1 nandomo ibiti.
The Water Authority of Fiji has stated they have restored water supply to 90% of the areas affected by water cuts. However, yesterday, a number of workplaces and schools in the Central Division experienced a low turnout of workers and students as a number of areas were affected. Many decided to stay home as the lack of awareness caught many off guard. Faria Begum with this report.
A number of school children and workers in the Central Division were forced to stay home yesterday as one of their most essential need was taken away from them.
Waking up in the morning, couldn't go to work with no bus. Have to go and work bus at the workplace.
Rayawa has urged the Water Authority to ensure prior warning is given.
It's better they warn us before they cut the water. And to all of us, we should be prepared for this kind of situation. Because I used to bring empty drums from the workplace and fill it up with water, just to stand by for any case like this.
Other residents also shared the same sentiments as they were not prepared for the water cut.
If I had known, I would have prepared for everything in advance. I would have bought extra buckets. This affected my daughter's schoolwork as they were unable to go to school yesterday, and school is so important for them. My business operated as normal, but I was more worried about my daughters.
No, we face difficulties in cooking the food, and the school children not attending school, and also for us gang working, we can't manage to go to work.
In some areas, supply was restored as early as 6 a.m. However, some residents had to wait for later today to have their supply normalized. Faria Begum, FBC News.
As Fiji taps for more economic development opportunities and investor confidence, the Environment Ministry will not back down on upholding legislation that govern their operations. The ministry spearheaded a roundtable discussion of more than 20 private sector and potential investors from the Central Division. They obtained primary information on what is expected of them under the Environment Management Act. Jose Nanunga tells us more.
While opening the forum this morning, Dr. Mahana Reddy reiterated that an approval from his ministry is critical to kickstarting any development project.
There are times when we are really struggling to see how we can meet the demands of the stakeholders, the investors, with respect to investment projects, when it could have an impact on their run. And that is where we come in and walk you through. The idea is to walk you through, walk you through to ensure that we don't breach any of the legislation.
Dr. Reddy says they will also support the Endangered Protected Species Act of 2002, the 2008 Litter Act, and the Ozone Depleting Substance Act, passed in 1998 for the sustenance of future generations.
ensure that our natural environment remains intact and ecosystems are fully functioning, waste is managed, emissions are within acceptable environmental standards set out by the Department of Environment.
These business operators need to go through the legal process before they start up a business in Fiji.
Local and overseas investors who want to come and invest in Fiji need to understand the environment law.
The ministry aims to strengthen its environment impact assessment process, which is key to maintaining effective control and sustainable use of natural resources. Jose Nanunga, FBC News.
The Ministry of Agriculture is ready to begin their nationwide census from Monday next week. Agriculture Minister Dr. Mahendra Reddy says the census provides critical assistance in the development of government policies. In addition, the statistical information would further develop and grow one of the country's integral sectors. The 2020 Fiji Agriculture Census is scheduled to be carried out over 3 weeks from the 10th to the 29th of February.
Without quality data, relevant data, and timely data, policy making will be very weak. And in fact, policy making could be ineffective. And that is why policy making must be based on recent, correct, and relevant data.
A senior woman inspector has been appointed to represent Fiji in a new United Nations mission area, making this a first for Fiji and its disciplined forces. Inspector Rusila Vakavaka, who currently holds the Inspector of Police Administration post at the Lautoka Police Station, has been chosen as the first Fijian to be deployed for duties under the United Nations Interim Security Force for Abai. Vakavaka said she is privileged to have been chosen to mark the major achievement. Vakavaka will fly out of the country on Monday with the 17 officers bound for the United Nations mission in South Sudan. Well, frustration is now building in a cruise ship docked in Japan as some passengers have been tested positive for the coronavirus. More than 3,000 people are now under quarantine as the coronavirus global death toll surpassed the 600 mark. In sports, Nasinu Secondary upsets QVS in secondary schools Rugby League. And Fiji Warriors prepare for the Pacific Challenge. This and more after the break.
My name is Neha and I'm from Kadavi, and Mirchi FM, it's hot.
Mirchi FM, it's hot.
The Nasinu Under-19 Rugby League team put up a strong performance to beat defending champions Queen Victoria School 22-19 in the Fiji Secondary School Rugby League competition. Nasinu's defence stood tall as they kept QVS at bay to win the match. Tale Materakula with the story.
Impressed with the win, Coach Manasa Rokutivekau says more work still needs to be done.
We'll go back at school. That's where discipline is usually addressed during training. So discipline off the field, then they will perform in the field.
Rokutivekau is positive the side will take Nasinu back to its winning ways.
Under-19 champion used to be Nasinu. So the previous years they lost that title. So we'll try to come back this year.
Player Nasikoroi says they are ready for the Tanwa Trophy Challenge.
Going to challenge against Arques, and we are hoping to take the Tanwa Trophy against Arques.
In other under-19 matches, Assemblies of God defeated Ratu Sukuna 14-8 and Maris Brothers won by default after Leline failed to turn up for the competition. Round 3 of the Fiji Secondary School Rugby League continues next week. Tali Materkula, FBC Sports.
The Pacific Challenge will provide a good platform for local players in the Fiji Warriors squad to experience top-level international competition. With 25 players to feature for the first time in the Pacific Challenge, head coach Kele Liawere says this will be a good exposure for them. Liawere adds fitness is an area they're working on and players will need to put in the extra yard if they seek to make the final cut.
Giving them a chance to come up to this level, to experience how playing up in this level is going to be like. So it's in a way it's a good way of blooding in these players in this group.
The Pacific Challenge will be played on a round-robin basis where the team that records the maximum competition points wins. The Swire Shipping Fiji Warriors will face Samoa A on March the 6th. They will then face Tonga A on the 10th of March and Junior Japan on March the 14th. The Lambasa football team picked up its form and defeated Navua 2-0 at Subrel Park in the Vodafone Premier League. The Bambasing Lions lost to Suva in the first round but came back strongly in the second round to get back on track. It was Siotame Kumbu netting in 2 goals for the host to make sure they earn maximum points from this round. The CVC champions now have 3 points from 2 games, while newly promoted Navua side have yet to get a point after they went down to Nandi 2-1 in the first round. Flying Fijians and Rebels halfback Frank Lomani's try was not enough as the Rebels went down to the Brumbies 26 points to 39. The Brumbies dominated most of the first half, scoring their first try just after 4 minutes. The Rebels clawed back to narrow the margin to a 10-point deficit, but the Brumbies held on their momentum to come away with the win. A try by former All Black Sevens winger Chona Nareki was not enough to stamp the Highlanders' first Super Rugby win. The side went down to South Africa Sharks 42-20. There were occasional showers experienced as well as isolated thunderstorms over the Lau and Lomaiviti group in the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands. Elsewhere it was fine apart from afternoon or evening showers and isolated thunderstorms. We take a look at the west. Well, despite the heat, there was rain in some parts of the Western Division. And eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, considerable cloudiness, becoming breezy this evening. Rain is expected in some areas tonight. And up north, a shower or thunderstorm in spots this evening. Otherwise, it should be mostly cloudy. At sea, you can expect easterly winds 10 to 15 knots and moderate seas. For the tides, low tide is at 11:28 p.m. with high tide at 5:21 tomorrow morning. Sunrise will grace us at 5:53. Now looking further ahead, rain to continue in most parts of the country. And as we look at the further outlook, there will be cloudy periods with some showers over the eastern parts in the interior of the larger islands. Elsewhere, it should be fine, apart from afternoon or evening showers and once again isolated thunderstorms. Recapping the main stories, foreign national cleared of coronavirus, the Education Ministry to increase their finance officers, and pensioners prefer food voucher over cash. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question segment, this week we're asking, can the current Fiji Sevens team win gold at the Tokyo Olympics? To visit our FBC website to answer. Well, you can always send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us for our Facebook page, FBC News. You can also follow and tweet us your news tips on Twitter at FBC News or simply hashtag FBC News. And that was your FBC News for tonight. Until next time, good night.
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.